station KDKA. In voting results, Cox is trailing Floyd. And Ketchikan, Alaska.
Lucky Lindy, as they call him, landed at Le Bourget Airport.
Get this started. Johnson Wax program with Fibber, McGee, and Molly.
Tonight, the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
I'm interested to know, Gracie, who's your choice?
Leave your ass, George.
You would say, this was their finest hour.
Hey, you ever played this number before, Bud? Played it? I made it.
Interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
1941, a day which will live. Ohio Silver, the Lone Ranger.
There's an old curiosity shop. Every once in a while I go by there for the fond recollections that lie there in that old curiosity
Out of the dawn, there came a sunbeam.
Well, a good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop, and I'm welcoming you to a rare Wednesday evening thrift haul. Now, I usually run my auctions every Monday and Friday night, and that's usually when you get the thrift haul videos. But I've got some unusual things here. It's a small haul. A couple of the things that you've seen before, but some of them you haven't, and I'd like to tell you what I have. Now, not everything that you see here is going to be for sale in the Old Curiosity Shop. And those of you who've been watching me for a while, you already know what I'm keeping. But you might be surprised at what I am going to go ahead and pass on to a new collector, I hope. So, welcome and stay tuned. Well, I'm back, and you know, you were with me when I stumbled upon this wonderful find, a month or so ago at a local flea market. Now, when I stumbled upon this, the lid was closed, and there were no headphones, no horn speaker, nothing at all to give any indication as to what this was, except I looked very closely at the front of this box and my heart rate increased because I recognized headphone jacks and a larger mono jack for an early speaker, and I knew this had to be what's called in the collecting field a home brew set. Now, you'll notice the box is older than the radio itself, and that's what this is, a radio. And the box had another life. What did it start out as? I don't know. It could have been one of those weird home quack early electrical medical gizmo type things. Could have been a piece of test equipment, but the old handle is missing. It's cracked, pretty bad shape, but this is what would happen in the early days of radio. Usually the father in the home, the gentleman of the house, would go and find an old box. And in the early days, you couldn't go out and buy a radio. Now, I'm not talking about 1909, 10, 12, when Marconi was doing all of his experimenting. Radio or wireless telegraphy existed in the days of the Titanic, but that was only ... And then, much later, with help from some other inventors, not just Marconi, but several others, Lee DeForest and Edward Armstrong and others, we get the advent of radio. And so the first commercial broadcast was actually considered to be in 1920. That's KDKA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they broadcast the election results of the 1920 election. Historical in that it's the first election that women were able to vote, and the unfortunate Warren Harding was elected. That would be a rather lackluster presidency. And of course, Harding died. We didn't know much about the Teapot Dome scandals when he died, so he was still a popular president until the scandals came out after his death. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. When that announcement was made over KDKA in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1920, there were probably only a handful of people who heard it.
This is KDKA of the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We shall now broadcast the election returns. We are receiving these returns through the cooperation and by special arrangements with the Pittsburgh Post and Sun. The election returns will be broadcast as soon as they are received by us here at KDKA. We'd appreciate it if anyone hearing this broadcast would communicate with us, as we are very anxious to know how far the broadcast is reaching and how it is being received. Write your card or letter to station KDKA, East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And now, while we're waiting for the returns to come in over the telephone, direct from the Post and Sun, I'll give you the list of offices in today's presidential election. Here they are. Some 30 million Americans are electing a president of the United States, a vice president, 34 United States senators, 435 members of the House of Representatives, governors of 34 states, and thousands of minor offices, county judges, and officials. Okay, those are the offices to be filled. And here are the 7 complete presidential tickets that are being voted on. I guess you all know these names pretty well by this time, but there's no harm repeating them. And we have to wait for the returns anyhow. Well, here's the list. Republican, Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge. Democratic, James M. Cox and Franklin D. Roosevelt. Socialist, Eugene V. Debs and Seymour Stedman. Prohibition, Aaron S. Watkins and Leigh Colvin. Farmer Labor, Parley S. Christensen and Max S. Hayes. Socialist Labor Party, William Cox and August Gilhas. Single Tax, R.C. Macaulay and R.C. Barnum. Well, those are the candidates running for the various offices in this election. And we're going to stay right here and broadcast the returns as they come into us, so please stand by.
You could not, as I said, go out and buy a commercial radio set. No one was manufacturing them. You had to build them from parts. And our grandfathers and great-grandfathers made crystal sets with a little galena crystal, and you could build one in an old Oates cylindrical cardboard container. This one's a little fancier because we have a one vacuum tube set here, which means we get some amplification. And so not only can we drive the original old headphones, but there would be enough juice to power up a horn speaker, as you see here. And this is going to date to sometime in the early 1920s. What is amazing about these home brew sets is they're all original, and they vary from set to set. Some are very elaborate, and you would go to your hardware store or you'd go to an auto parts store, or you would order these parts out of a catalog. There were no radio stores in those early days. So we see a single rheostat here for the tuning. And then we've got different voltages here on the batteries for the tube and to power up our horn speaker over here. And then this is the output power transformer to operate the cone speaker, the horn speaker. And this would have been just stunningly exciting to sit in your living room where, you know, even if you only picked up static or the sound of electric bolts of lightning and maybe the scratchy sounds of the original Nighthawk Orchestra from atop some glorious hotel in Chicago, how exciting it was to fiddle with these old machines in the early 20s. You don't find them with the batteries. This battery down here, this Eveready, says used before 1933. The other one I don't see a date on. But usually when people find these, they gut them, they don't know what they have. And to find a radio like this, untouched, this is exactly as it was built and put away in a basement or an attic waiting for me to discover it, and boy, I'm glad I did. And I could talk for another half an hour about this old radio. Now, I'm not going to keep it. I love old radios, but I want to pass this on to a collector of early homebrew sets who's going to fall in love with it and purchase it as a one-of-a-kind. There's a history to this. Who built it? What was the first program that they heard? How exciting was it to bring this into the house? Now, you would listen to it on these old-fashioned headphones, and these are ear breakers. I'll tell you, these things are heavy, they pinch your head, but this is the way we listened to radio in the early 1920s. And this is a set that I already had, and so I have just put it with this, and I'm going to be selling the radio and the headphones together. I'm not going to sell my horn speaker. This is out of my own collection, and it's a very desirable one and somewhat difficult to find. It's small in size. This was not ripped off of a Victrola or a phonograph. This is manufactured exactly like this, just to amplify radio. And this one is called the, I think, if I remember correctly, the Mozart Grand. And probably made somewhere in like Newark, New Jersey or something like that. And so I just set this here with the radio just to give you the feel and the look of what the whole package would look like. Okay, I rambled on about that. Here's a wonderful motto from the late 20s, early 30s. You were with me when I found it. It's not signed or dated, but we know it dates to 1925 to 1935 in the original frame. It's a really nice poem. Buzza, B-U-Z-Z-A, is what you normally see on these. So we'll say Buzza in style, but unbranded. And so this one has never come out of the original frame, because there's that old brown paper that's been stuck on there, and a little piece of string on the top to hang it up. You would buy these in 5 and dimes, just like we buy them today in the Hallmark store. Now over here, something different for me is a grouping of pewter. None of it is from the colonial days. If it were, I'd have a small, well, not a small fortune, but I'd have a hard time parting with it. This pewter is probably all made sometime in the 20th century, 1930s to 1970s, all made by different companies. The tankard is made in England, and it has a glass bottom, and it's English pewter. This is made by the International Pewter Company, and this is made by the Royal Pewter Company. They go together nicely in a small grouping, and I'm selling all 3 of these pieces of pewter together and gives you the real colonial feel. Boy, you only need a hint, really, to conjure up images and thoughts of times gone by. You could put this on as a centerpiece on a table, put it on your mantle. It's very quaint. Now, that candle is not included. Okay. This plate right here, anybody recognize that? I have to admit, I didn't recognize it. I didn't know what it was. And even turning it on the back, it's really hard to read. But this is a plate that was issued in a series. Now, the series of these plates came out in, 1898, I think. And this is made by W.T. Copeland and Sons. It's English blue and white transferware. And they introduced a set of these plates in 1898. And that's right, they were the ancient wonders of the world. That's one of the ancient wonders right there. And that wonder is, what is it? I didn't know, I have to admit. I had to go and look it up. So that's the, now I've forgotten what it is. Oh, it's the Pharaohs of Alexandria. And you can imagine collecting all 6 of these around the turn of the century. Now, embossed inside of the clay or the porcelain there's no actual date on this, but I believe it dates to 1901. I don't know for how many years they produced this series, but I think this dates to 1901. There is an A01 embossed in it, but no chips, no cracks, no crazing, excellent condition. There's just one, collect all, how many wonders of the world? There's supposed to be 7 wonders of the world, right? So there's one of them. The 8th wonder of the world is my old cat. Here he goes again, talking about that cat. We're headed to the vet on Friday for an old man checkup as we approach birthday number 20 coming up next spring. Showing signs of age, so just going to hope and pray everything is okay, but Salem is going to go to the vet on Friday. I'll let you know how he does. Now over here I am going to be selling this wonderful cheese and cracker set. And why it's such an amazing survival story is that the cheese compote and the cracker dish have been together for almost 100 years. They were manufactured sometime in the 1920s, and here in 2020, they're still together. How many of these cheese and cracker sets get split up? Happens all the time. Now we see the M and the M on the back of this. Moriyama Moriyachi. I don't know if you can... Okay, that's what the M and the M stands for there. And then made in Japan. So again, made in Japan, obviously for us. Is it for us Americans or we Americans? Or others in the world who sit and eat cheese and crackers? I don't think the Japanese were sitting around eating cheese and crackers in those days. Maybe they were, what do I know? Somewhat unusual in these beautiful colors of deep cobalt blue, which may appear black in this little movie. I don't know. I call it a movie. Somebody corrected me and said, it's a video, Scott, not a movie. Or at least I didn't say talking picture. Okay, no chips, no cracks. Typical crazing that we always see. Nice marks on the back. Really pretty design on that. I like the jewel tones with the cobalt blue and the gold highlights. And as far as I know, there aren't any other cheese and cracker sets by this maker, this old, still together, listed right now. So that's really pretty, don't you think? And then I'm not selling the last 3 items, but I want to share them with you because they're all recent finds. This is a wonderful little Philco set. And this is, boy, the war ended and we were ready for new radios, and this one came out in 1946. A little Bakelite set, still in that streamlined art modern design that was still popular in the 40s. And in just another year, 1947, we would have sets with some FM, but we're still dealing with AM at this point. Now, I haven't done anything with this one yet because the line cord has been cut. It's wonderful to find original cardboard backs, because that indicates that nobody has been in here monkeying with this. And remember, when you find an old radio, don't plug it in. If you hope to get it working, take it to a restorer and let them power it up slowly so that you don't, if you've got lots of leaky cardboard capacitors, you're going to blow, you're going to have problems. You always do, and you'll mess them up. So please don't plug in old radios. If you want to get it working again, take it to somebody and have it restored. So that's to answer the question when everybody says, does it work? It doesn't work till it gets a comprehensive exam. Now, you are going to see in a video this week, I just thrifted this, yesterday or the day before, in a local thrift store, and I met two lovely people. I'll tell you about them in the thrift video that's coming up. So I won't talk much about this now, but I'm going to keep this. It's Anchor Hocking. It's green. It's from the 30s. And this sort of diagonal smooth section here is where there was an original paper label. If I remember, they were sort of a black and foil. And it would announce on there what was in the jar. This one, being as large as it is, was usually cookies. And indeed, the label would say cookies. Now, sometimes it would say flour or sugar, but this big one is usually cookies. Wonderful old lid. Nice green depression color. These are still selling for about 40 bucks. But you know me and my 1930s and green, I got to keep a hold of that. And then finally, I'm also keeping this, which I have fallen in love with. It's a tin made here in Philadelphia by the American Stores Company, or distributed by American Stores, Philadelphia, PA. We can see that. And cloves. And there's actually still some, there are old cloves in there, original cloves, which may be original to this can. So when I make my hermits in October, which tomorrow is the first day of October, should I use these old cloves? Do you think cloves from about 1930 go bad, or do they improve with age? I don't know. Wonderful 1930s kitchen stuff. Doesn't this all look good together, these three? Just like, you know, the Depression era kitchen. Okay, everyone. Remember, these things over here are all for sale in the Old Curiosity Shop. And I want to thank you again for joining me on my wonderful Monday night. Wonderful. Did I just compliment myself? Well, they were wonderful to do and so much fun to bring to you. The autumn sales and the Christmas sales. I'm back out scouring the Northeast for cool things to bring to you. I thank you for watching, tuning in, and for being a part of this channel. We're all in this together, and I think we have a pretty good time. I know I do. Okay, folks, that's it. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop. Join me Friday for another thrift haul. So long for now.